Hello Internet, my name is Ace and today I'm going to be showing you how to create cartoon characters, cartoon animals really, and you could turn them into any animal that you can think of pretty much. So a lot of things start with a circle. The reason for this is it's a very appealing form, but we can start with pretty much any shape and create animals from that. But for today we're just going to talk about the circle, and we'll maybe get onto ovals as well to kind of make things a little bit more interesting. So as long as you can do a rough approximation of a circle, obviously this is not a perfect circle, it doesn't matter. You can follow along on the computer or you can follow along pencil and paper, none of this matters. So we need to find the center of the circle. Okay, so this is us looking straight on at the circle. If we was to take this and rotate it slightly like this, then the center line would bend around like so. Because if we was to take a circle, this is obviously a center line, but if we was to put it off to the side, this is just a line on a circle rather than an actual sphere or ball object. So there we have it. We're just going to arc this, and it doesn't matter how extreme your arc is, because they're just going to be rotated more or less. You can have a very slight arc like this, and they're looking almost straight on at this. But it's kind of more exciting to draw animals from the 3/4 view, because you get to kind of get a lot more character in there. Now the only other line we need to do is a eye line. So you can just put that in like that. Now, where does this eye line need to fall? It doesn't matter. It really depends what animal you're drawing, okay? So if we're doing something like, I think lions have quite high eyes, or elephants and things like that. They've got higher eye lines. But if you're drawing kind of cute and you want this nice looking aesthetic, it's generally better to go on the lower end, like a third of the way up, or even less. I tend to do this with cute cartoons. You can raise it slightly, lower it slightly, whatever you want. It's all to do with you're the designer at the end of the day. You can do whatever you want. Okay, so all we need to do is we need to stick on some eyes. So I'm going to go for really big eyes for this. And again, as long as you understand these principles, you can make big eyes, you can make small eyes, you can have the eyes really wide apart, or you can have the eyes really close together. As long as you understand the basic principles, it really doesn't matter. Okay, so sitting on the eye line over here is another oval, and you might think that this looks kind of squashed and weird, and you'd be right. And the reason why is because we're on a ball or sphere, and we're rotating these objects around this ball or sphere. Now, this oval here, as it would rotate further around, it's going to get thinner and thinner and thinner until it would just be a line on the edge, and then you wouldn't even be able to see the thing anymore. So now you can draw any animal. I'm not even kidding. From this here, you can draw any animal. You can pretty much draw any cartoon character from this kind of thing. So that's all you need to know. I will show you obviously a bit more. So let's take this and let's create. Again, we can create any animal from here really, but let's look at a mouse kind of character. So all we need to be doing is thinking as a sculptor. So we've got this sphere, which is not a circle, it's a ball or a sphere, and we're just going to be slapping clay on it, or whatever you sculpt with. I've never actually sculpted before. So we can slap spheres on, ovals, anything like that. But as long as these things feel like they're a part of this object, then that's all right. And we need to be able to know what kind of direction those things are, the center of those objects. This kind of sounds daunting, but it's easier than it seems, and I'll show you why. So let's stick an oval on here. And as you can see, this oval, it's not perfectly in the center. It's not like this, of this center line, because we're rotating around this ball, things appear like they're moving the way that you're rotating. So it's going to be slightly off center like this, and this is going to feel like it's attached. Now from here we need to know that it's attaching here, look, and here. So this center line is going to wrap around this object. So it's going to come away. This center of this object is not here anymore. The center of this object that we've just done is going to come off here. You just need to be able to visualize these things. It may take a little bit of practice, it might not make sense straight away, but that is perfectly fine. Now we're going to slap on another bit of clay. So let's add an object on like that. Now this is going to make sure it has to connect here, which is the center, because this is where this line is finishing. We're going to stick that on there, and from the side we're going to see this object coming off slightly. So where we connected here, if we look, this is, I don't know, about a third or so down from here. This is going to want to feel like it's connecting in the same place. It's going to want to come as high as this. If we're, imagine this rotating around the ball. So there's the edge of the ball there. So it's going to come like this, up, and it's going to come out a little bit because we want it to really feel like it's 3D. Now this is a great basis for, we could build a cat from here. We could build a mouse, a beaver, badger, not a badger, but we could build lots of different animals from here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this, and this is going to be our kind of framework, I guess. And we're going to go on a different layer. And if you're drawing on paper, just draw over it in slightly darker, or you can change the color of your pencil. Because eventually, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going on another layer and tidying those things up, which I won't do in this video because it'll make it a little long. But if you was doing this on paper, you just stick some paper on top of it and trace the object. So from here, we are going to just really carve out the feeling of this. And you don't have to be super clean and lines. Look, I'm still very sketchy with my lines, and that's fine. So let's add this kind of thing in here. You're just slowing down slightly because this is not going to be the final what is it, thing that people are going to see. So on here, we're going to want to really accent this. So this is going to come off, and mice, their kind of thing is like two balls almost, but just slightly modified. So we're going to come in here, look. We're not following this part around the oval. We're going to come in, and then on the bottom, on the right hand side one, we're going to cut into that slightly. So we're following up that center line. We're not going to go all the way up like that, but we're just kind of tucking into that center line, following that round and carving it out like this. Then we want to add in some kind of expression. So I guess let's wrap around like this, then let's come out like this. No, let's not go that far. Let's just have this kind of thing like that. And this is going to be the part where the mouth connects. And let's really fill this with a really big tooth. So if we go back to that previous layer, and what we're doing is we're adding this kind of object coming off like this. So what's going to happen is, let's come to a point like this, round that off slightly. There we go. If we can kind of feel that this is, instead of just coming down like this, we want to just round those forms just a little bit to kind of make them feel a little more realistic. So let's come down, come to a point, round, and out again. And then let's follow that center line again, just to tuck into this part here so it really feels like it's all connected. Now this, I said a mouse, but it's kind of looking a bit chipmunky or something like that. And the best thing to do when you're actually drawing is to go and look at some mice. And I don't mean actual real life mice, unless you have access to those, which that would be beneficial. But just go and look at pictures of mice on the internet and things like that, and look at reference and kind of see how a mouse's things are all connected, and then all you're doing is you're taking that and kind of just caricaturing it slightly. So if we look here, here's a time when we should be doing a thing called drawing through. Now, drawing through is where you are, even though you can't see an object like this, you're drawing it anywhere, because you're not going to see this part because it's behind the teeth, but we want to draw it anywhere because we really want to feel what that's going to look like if it was connected. Because say if we have, say if we've got like a tooth here and we're coming like this with the tongue and guessing, and then it's all, if we joined them up, they're not going to actually connect. Right, so we've got this kind of thing. Like that, really making that feel like it's real. Or not that it's real, but that it's plausible, I guess is the best way. Then all this would be all filled in. And as you can see, it's starting to really come together now. Now, this part here is wrapping around the object. So this is going to be further away from us than the part at the front. So this bit wants to be thicker than this bit, or else it just wouldn't feel like it's going back in space. And that's just a little thing called perspective, which I'm doing some videos on perspective on my channel. So if you want to see them, just hit the subscribe button below. So there we go. So we're really starting to form that. And what I like to do is I really like to kind of make it feel like there is real fur going on. So what you can do is you can just come off slightly and just at the edges just kind of add some kind of hintings of fur like that. So you're just basically scribbling, but you're still following the line. So you're coming off and going back in like this. You're actually following the object rather than just randomly sticking some spikes. So there we go. So we have this and the nose of a mouse. Now I can't actually remember how a nose of a mouse goes. So let's just kind of stick on a Mickey Mousey kind of feel. And then let's add a highlight on there. Colour that in slightly. So again, that was just an oval, but we're feeling like it's attaching here. And again, if I was actually doing these designs for something, I would look at real animals. Let's just fill all that in for now. Worry about highlights and stuff later. Actually, let's worry about them now. Okay, so we've got this, and then coming off on the left hand side, we're going to be following round again. And don't make the hair too pointy. You want to kind of make it seem not threatening because they're cartoon characters. So there we go. So we have a kind of, let's make that nose really big, shall we? Now you can just play along, play around. If you're thinking it'll look cool with a bigger nose, just make it bigger. If it doesn't work, you can always rub it out and start again. It's not the end of the world. We're never going to find great characters if we're just taking the first thing that comes into our head. Well, sometimes we will, but a lot of the time we won't. Right, okay, so we have this eye that's coming like this, and the pupil of this eye is actually going to be blocked by the nose. Now, that kind of makes for a confusing design. So what we could do is we can make this nose even bigger so it would fully cover the eye, like that. which is not the best idea. Or, and again, like I say, we can just rub stuff out and try again. Or what we could do is plan where the eye is going to be first, which we should have probably done that in the construction phase, but not to worry. So this eye is going to be here. So let's go back to that construction phase and kind of plan out a nose that we like. Now, why is my pen not working? There we go. So let's plan out a nose that's going to look mousy, but at the same time not get in the way of the eye. How is that going to look? Now, we need to be thinking about these things all the time. We really need to be worrying about what objects are blocking what. Now, obviously in nature doesn't do that. It's the things are where they are. I guess they've already done that with evolution, but things are where they are. But as a cartoon designer and character creator, we can move those things. We can move anything around really to kind of get it so it fits. Now, if I couldn't get this to work, which I'm not overly happy with this nose, I do prefer the first nose, what I would do is I would go back to the drawing board, and at this angle, it's obscuring it, so I'd rotate it further around so it wouldn't be as obscuring. Now, I do like the idea of a really big nose, so let's just fatten this out. I don't know if mice have really big noses. To be honest, I've not spent a lot of time looking at a mouse, to be honest. Now, mice, I think, have little whiskers, so just little scribbles in there like that. Should have probably got some reference before drawing these images. I still don't really like the nose, but we can move on. So there we go. So we've got the top kind of bit. We need to add in an eyebrow. Now, let's go back to the construction layer, because what I like to do is I like to create like a mask for the eyebrows, where the eyebrows connect. So let's create this masking first, and then when we're on here, we just need to trace it. So this just wants to feel like, you know, them like eye masks you get for, what is it, like a masquerade party or whatever. You just want to kind of draw one of them in, and it lets you place the eyebrows a little bit more believable. So we've got this. Now, one thing I forgot about, I think mice have really big ears. So let's stick that in like that. So we've just got an oval here, and it's going to come all away like that, come down, and connect in somewhere like that. It's going to be for a mouse ear. Again, it would benefit me, it would benefit you to actually look at real mice, see how their ears and stuff connect. So from this side, we're just picturing what it's going to feel like. And we've got them big ears like that. So let's go back to the kind of second construction layer. And let's add a couple of them like spikes in there. So really want to feel like these things are made out of fur. Now, I don't think the ears are overly fluffy, so maybe don't worry too much about that. Just to add a couple of bits of fur accents like that. Come round. Now, again, I would have liked to look at reference, and what I'll do is I'll maybe, if people want it, and you can put a comment below and let me know if you do. If you want a video talking about how to look at reference and create characters from that, where you're not actually copying the characters, you're using influence and you're caricaturing those animals a little bit, then just let me know, and I'll definitely 100% do that, because that's something that sounds fun for me to do. Right, so there we go, and because the eye is behind, you would actually see that part of the hair. So if we get rid of the construction layer, you can see that now we have some kind of mouse-like thing. Let's put that back in. Okay, so what I'd like to do is just really define the top of this nose slightly. I wouldn't connect it all the way down. Maybe I would. Sometimes I would, sometimes I wouldn't. Let's do it today, just for fun. There we go. So as you can see, we have some kind of mouse. And again, what I would do now is, if I was creating this for something, firstly, I don't like this nose, so I would have actually changed that. But secondly, I would then go add another layer on top and just really clean this up with a nice line work. So we won't be doing that today, but I will do videos on inking cartoon characters and colouring them in the future. This is just about draftsmanship and drawing. So you can see how we went from this object here, which is kind of, if we look at it now, it looks like some kind of weird, I'm not really sure. And then if we add that on top, then we actually get the character. So let's take another animal. Let's do something completely different. Let's worry about a dog, for example, and we shall do a bit of a weird angle. So we'll look up at this dog. Up slightly. Okay, so let's start with a circle. Now, I did do another video in this construction series about heads at weird angles, and you can check that out if you go to my channel. And in fact, there'll be a link to the playlist in the description below to the drawing heads at different angles, the playlist that's on. So let's have a look at this. So we're going to be looking up at it. Now, if we've got a circle, we've got the center line, and if we rotate this circle this way, then the eye line that's around here is going to move up, obviously, because we're rotating it back. So that's all we're doing. We're just looking slightly up at this, like that. So there we have the eye line. So let's stick in let's maybe not go that high up. Let's just go a little up, like that. We don't want to make things too extreme. Then let's add in some eyes. So we just want some nice ovals, like so. Sorry, that's not the best ovals. They're quite an extreme angle, these. Let's back them off slightly. So we've got the, like this, and something like that. And again, we're playing around as we're going. It's fine to rub out. It's fine to undo. It's fine to really just play around with forms until you find something that you're actually really liking. And I'm really not liking this eye here, so we'll rub it out. It's good. I'll leave all this in, all these errors in. Obviously, I've left it in, if you can hear me saying it. But what we're doing is it's good to work through your problems. So we've got this in something like that, okay? Right, then what we're going to do is we're going to add, so we've got the center point here. So coming through here, what we're going to do is we're going to add a kind of big, let's cut through the eye slightly. Let's add some sort of, let's go wild with this. Let's go really big. Let's add in this kind of shape, which I guess is kind of a modified oval, like so. There we go. So we've got this in here, and let's add in these pupils. We're drawing through the forms, remember? Now this one could probably do to be that way slightly. So what I will do, which I normally wouldn't do, but just for the quickness of this, I'd normally kind of just rub it out and draw it again. But there we go. I don't know why this is still here. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we are going to, let me just find this. Sorry about that. What we're going to do now is we're going to find where the nose is going to be. So again, this is a big object that we are looking down at. This is going to connect around here. So the center line for this thing is maybe something like that. That looks about right to me. So let's add some big whopping nose on there. Today I'm a big fan of big noses, apparently. Like this. There we go. That's looking cool. So we've got that shape on there. Now I do normally draw a lot faster, but for some reason when I'm teaching these things, I tend to slow down a little bit. So we've got that. And again, the principles are all the same of what we just said. So let's cut in here, like this, and then we'd be coming away, and let's add a smile on there. So let's cut into the eye slightly. With the muzzle, let's come round, and let's come from here. Let's go all the way up like this. Let's make this a really big smile. So we're cutting round, up like this. Then we're adding in this part here, which is the flesh, as it contracts together. And then let's come down, round, and we want that to really come off like this and tuck in. Alright, so what I will do is I'll go and clean this up on this next layer. So all our construction is really just seeing where we're going to place objects. That's why it really doesn't matter if things are scruffy or wrong. Like it just doesn't matter at this point, as long as you can see your errors and see what needs to change. Then it's not, you can't go wrong at this phase, basically. So let's put them. And our dogs kind of, when they get excited, which this dog is, their ears kind of come up like this kind of thing. So we'll add that in like that. And then the same at the other side. So this dog's kind of like excited. Right, so that's all we need to create a finished drawing from this. That's really all we need. So I'll just tidy this up so you can see. Now let's zoom in slightly. Let's go apart. So from here, we're going to come around, and I'm going to make it so we can see a bit more of the eyeball and come down like this. Now this doesn't follow this form, but it will in a second. What we're going to do is we're going to add those. There's kind of bumps and just those points you get when skin all scrunches up. So let's add a couple in like that. Then from here, we're going to come up with this muzzle-y thing. Let's come down, and let's connect under here like that. And let's just bring this lip away. Come down, something like that. And like I say, let's stick the tongue in first because that's going to get in the way. Then coming down off here, let's bring this out slightly. In fact, dogs have these really cool, what are they like? These things, these like flappy things. I really love these on dogs. So let's add those in like that. Let's come off the form slightly, and let's add these in. There we go. So let's kind of draw these in slightly. So let's zoom in a bit, move out. Now, if you feel like we're going too quickly and you're not understanding things, the real importance here is the mindset of thinking like a sculptor and really coming off those objects so they feel like they're connected. That's basically all we need to really worry about. And all I'm basically just demonstrating that if we think like that, then any animal we can think of within reason can be based just off a circle with eyes and everything placed correctly. Right, so let's stick that nose. It's going to come out slightly more. As you can see, I'm not just tracing. I'm still thinking and correcting constantly as I'm going along. And again, I'm still being very, very rough at this point. Everything will be cleaned up later on to a more finished state. This is just sketching and construction, which is as important, if not more important, probably more important actually than the colouring and everything else, because you can be the best painter in the world, but if the thing that you're starting with is not right, then it's still going to look terrible. Well, actually, maybe not terrible. The best painter in the world. I don't know who is the best painter in the world, or if that's even quantifiable. But if it was, I'm sure that they start with a great base. Right, so this is going to tuck up in here, go around, and you can see the construction underneath, and it kind of looks a bit confusing, but as soon as you get rid of it, it all starts to make sense that this is a dog's muzzle. Alright, there we go. And I like to do all these tutorials in real time because sometimes it's difficult to kind of make head and tail, and there was no pun intended there with the dog kind of analogy, but let's pretend there was. It's difficult to really make sense of things sometimes when things are sped up. So that's why I like to teach in real time. Some things I do are sped up, but the majority of the stuff is in real time, like this. Right, okay, I won't worry about highlights now, because it's starting to look a little confusing in there with the construction. So let's just get rid of it for a minute. Okay, so there we have that. And coming off there, we're going to add the eyebrow. It's going to be just coming away from there slightly, because we're thinking in 3D. There we go. I've been wondering why my pen just doesn't feel right. The actual pen I'm drawing with at the moment, and it needs calibrating. I've just realised that where I'm drawing is not actually drawing. So that's slightly annoying. So that's some of them kind of spikes that you saw in every cartoon. Then let's come around like this and up. Connect him. Right, so if there's anything anyone wants me to actually cover to do with cartooning, to do with animation, to do with drawing in general, then just let me know and I will, if I know enough about those things, I will teach those things. I don't want to teach things that I just I don't know myself. So this has been the dog. Now let's modify things slightly. So this lesson's going to go quite long, but don't worry. If you should already know the stuff by now. If it's not making 100% sense, then you can carry on watching, or if you just want to kind of carry on watching anyway, then watch along. So let's draw a bed of some kind. So we're going to start from an oval shape instead of, so we had the circle. Now we can do long oval shape, or we can do this kind of oval shape. It's really throwing me with my pen not being connected, not drawing where I'm actually drawing. That's a bit of a pain. You don't get the problem with the iPad Pro. You can't run full software, but this way you draw, it draws. So we've got this kind of oval shape. Now, obviously, the center line is going to be at more of an angle like this rather than like this, because the object is more of a squashed object. So let's look at this, and let's stick some really big eyes in there. Let's make this a more female character. So there we are. We've got the construction there, and what did I say? A bed. So let's add a really long beak for fun. So the actual construction is going to be something like that. Let's come add the cheek. Then, as you can see, this line that we created here, this is just something that we're using as a guide. It's not actually going to follow that at all. So let's round this off like that. It might make sense to come away from that slightly, but I'll see in a minute. And let's make her looking kind of happy. Let's make a kind of goofy looking gal. So she's just kind of, I don't know, like a happy gal, but she's not the cleverest. And that is not at all my commentary on the female sex. But let's just do that to this girl. So let's make the nose kind of small, actually. The actual breathing apparatus. There we go. Then let's add these in here. So the cross-eyedness tends to look cute. That's why I've been doing it for most of the characters. Now let's add a bit of thickness here, and let's just add the odd, what are they called? Eyelashes. Sorry, my brain's not working today for some reason. That's that. So they're going to be getting smaller as they go around. So as you can see, there doesn't actually need to be a lot more doing to this one to make it more thingy, but I will add another layer and tighten it up slightly. So the beak as well, if we look at the beak, because we can see the beak coming off at this side, it would actually attach around here and come off at this side as well, because we're seeing things from the side angle. So it'd be something like that. Maybe not as extreme as that. Maybe more extreme. Who knows? Right, here we go. So let's tighten this up slightly. Why are we not red? There we go. Let's tighten this up just a tad. This pen is really bothering me. Needs calibrating. Now, if you're working on pencil and paper, you're not going to have this problem ever. Pencil and paper is awesome. Then let's add this in here, like so. Let's come up. And at this point, all we are doing is actually just cleaning things up slightly. We're not actually doing much thinking, because that stuff was done in the construction. Now, we are not just mindlessly tracing, because we do want to improve the drawing with every stroke that we do. But then as well, we're not thinking super clean to the point of a finished image, because that's going to come later on. Let's just flick them in there. No, it's not that important. Then what I am going to do is I'm just going to rotate the canvas just to make some things drawing a little bit easier. Now, if you're working on paper, I'm sure you're probably already doing this anyway, because it just becomes natural to rotate the paper so you're getting an angle that you feel comfortable with. Now, on the computer, it kind of throws you out a little bit because you're having to physically rotate the canvas with a button rather than actually just turning a piece of paper around. There we go. Let's get this shape in here. Again, not being overly perfect. Let's attach and then come out and round a little bit like that, just to add a bit of interest. No reason other than that. Now, you would actually see this part around here, but that kind of looks a little confusing to the viewer. So what I'll do is I'll just make this bottom lip area just a little bit thicker. So let's rotate this back again. And as you can see, she's a lovely looking girl. Again, we can add interest wherever we want, so we can add this little like neck detail in there. This kind of thing, just to kind of give the thing more character. I don't think birds have ears, do they? So birds they're not fluffy, but they're kind of feathery, so it still might make sense to add those kind of things in like that. Now let's add a little bulge there for the eyebrow area. Now the eyebrows on female characters, we kind of want to turn them down a little bit because generally thicker eyebrows are a little bit more manly. And cartooning is essentially stereotyping. That is what cartooning is. So before anyone complains, then cartoons are funny and cartoons read as being a certain character because of stereotypes. There's no other way around it. Now, I'm not saying cartoons are or should be racist or anything like that, but what I'm saying is that stereotypes are a thing for a reason, because usually they're either true or people can associate with them. So let's add that in there. I don't know why I'm going on about the whole psychology of cartoons and what have you, but there we go. So we've got kind of that. Now so we've got this kind of spiky hair bit in here, but let's go back to the construction. And birds sometimes have these like kind of they've got the heads and they've got these like extravagant like headpiece things. So let's kind of take that but make a ponytail out of it. So let's kind of have something. How would that connect like that? Just kind of thinking through this as we go along, like so. Is that how that would connect? Or would this bit be... Sorry, I'm just thinking this through now. And we'll be connecting it around here because this is the actual backside. I think it would be more like this. I don't think we'd see that part there. So again, we're just exploring and playing around until we get something that kind of makes sense for us. And that looks like that's going to kind of make some sense, which is enough for cartoons. So let's add this coming like this. And this kind of just plays with the idea of birds have these extravagant whatever they are, and it's kind of fun to just play around and treat that as a kind of female hairdo, or male hairdo if you are from the 80s and 70s. There we go. That's kind of fun. So let's add that a little bit like that. Now let's hide the construction. And as you can see, we have a lovely female duck type thing. Now this eye just, oh my gosh. Honestly, with this, the pen like this is stressing me out a little bit. Well, it's not stressing me out at all, actually, but it's rather annoying. Right, so there we have a kind of bird with a ponytail. Then we have the kind of dog. Now let's add a bit of a neck on here for him, because he obviously needs one. Now, I'm still, again, I should have spent more time in the actual construction phase, because I'm not overly happy with these eyes. Then we have a kind of goofy looking mouse object. So there we have, like I say, just the way we need to think about creating characters, and just really think about what's unique about a certain animal or certain person character, and just really amplifying that. Now, what I'll do maybe next time is use some reference and create certain animals from reference using these techniques, so we can really hone in and make something great. Okay, so if you've liked this or got anything out of it at all, tickle the old down below, click the subscribe button, click the like, everything down there, and comment and let me know what you think of this video, what you didn't understand, and what I could do to improve to make things better for you. Okay, till next time, I'll see you later. Take care.